Negro, please. I know that look all too well. It is the look of a broken heart.
How did you know?
Believe me, my friend, I too have spent many nights trying to drown my sorrows in guacamole.
One of the things that I find amazing about the way Illumination does these is they are non-stop joke machines. It's like dense with humor. When you came in, it was a little later in the process. Can you talk about first when they showed you El Macho, and then getting in tune with that voice, because that is such a particular design to bring to life.
Right. First of all, I agree with you. I mean, what I loved about the first film and what I, feel just as strongly about in the sequel is that, it's that great balance of subversive humor. It's got an acerbic tone to it, which is almost nasty at times, and yet it balances it with real humanity. I mean, you find that there's real humanity and tenderness in the story too. So it makes it a film truly for everyone, and that's what I love about being in it. But you're right, coming to the process late, in a circumstance that I've never actually heard of, nor has the producer of the film before, where one of your lead actors, you mutually decide to step away from the role. So I come into a situation where the character that I have to find the soul of has been formed based on someone else's performance. And it's mathematically exacting, that process, because you have to fit everything within this parenthetical. You have to get all the words into the mouth at the right time, with the right tone, the right intonation, based on whatever the character is doing, based on something you never did or created. So very, very tough, unusual circumstances. That said, Al Pacino, who voiced what we got from an animated point of view, is brilliant. Hilarious, hilarious, hilarious. And, he's one of my heroes. And so for me, I just didn't want to mess it up, man. And based on what he did, it was the perfect roadmap to come in and, fill out the roundness of the guy, if you will.
It's amazing because as technically demanding as that must be in terms of the timing and the precision of it, it still feels very organic. It's still a performance. It doesn't feel like you're boxed in by it, and I think that's a real testament to how well you worked with the process.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, I'm glad you bring that up, because that was really our #1 objective, is to find the organic soul of the character. Otherwise, if you just phone it in, or if it feels forced in, it's not going to work. So for me, the initial approach was, do we replicate what Al did? And I tried it. It failed miserably. You can't out Al. He's a totally unique, incredible artist. And so that became kind of sacred ground to me. What I could do, though, was bring my own take on things and use what he laid down as a kind of, as my oracle, if you will. He was a great influence. And so it was not only a great challenge, but just a great deal of fun to do someone like this, because I've never had the opportunity to do someone this big.
The physical design of him is so specific. Was there anything you did while you're recording to put yourself in the mindset of a guy who's shaped and built like that?
El Macho, or Eduardo, he is clearly someone in the throes of middle age. He's got an expanding waistline and thinning hair. But I don't think he sees himself that way, and that's how I approached him. I think he still sees himself as someone, not unlike a lot of us guys in middle age, as someone who's still got it together, like a guy in his late 20s. He's suave and debonair and uber charming, and that's how he continues to comport himself. So he's got that zest for life, and he's got that flair. So yeah, I didn't want to trouble myself with that particular set of baggage. I thought just keep it the way a regular middle-aged guy would keep it, which is, I'm still a man of youth.
For breaking entertainment news and more, follow @HitFix on Twitter or visit hitfix.com.